Okay, it's like a podium. No, that's better than nothing.
Sort of.
Oh yeah, perfect. Okay, great. Thank you.
There's something underneath. Here's the thing behind you.
That. Okay, that might help with sound too.
Yeah, I can hear you and you're close. I think it's a little muffled. If you guys want to ask a question or anything, I guess maybe just make sure you're yelling, or I'll let you know if I can hear you. Well, hi. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Robbie. I am one of the co-founders of Beaver Builder, and met Betsy last year at Pressnomics at a conference. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here and excited. These virtual presentations, I've done one of these before, and they're always like a little bit bizarre, like sitting in my living room here talking to a group of people, but I hope you'll bear with me. Let's see here. So let me get my screen share going so you guys can see. Okay, there we go. Is that showing up? Are you guys able to see my screen now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, well, so my company and the kind of product I wanted to demo for you guys tonight is called Beaver Builder. Beaver Builder is a drag and drop page builder for WordPress. So it lets you design and build pages on your WordPress site using a visual drag and drop interface. So like, WordPress kind of started as a blogging engine platform, and it's great for writing text content. But when it comes to building out landing pages or contact pages, or pages like this one that are kind of beyond the your basic blog and text and image kind of thing, that's kind of where where Beaver Builder comes in. So we just celebrated our 3rd birthday this month. Beaver Builder has been around for 3 years, it's kind of wild. It went by really quick. But before we did Beaver Builder, our company that we started, or the parent company, is called Fastline Media. And before we started doing Beaver Builder, we were a web design agency. So it's myself and my 2 buddies that are my business partners, Justin and Billy. We were building websites for clients, people, small businesses. We did a lot of photographers. We did a lot of local businesses. I'm based in California, in the Silicon Valley area. So the genesis of Beaver Builder was there's always been kind of the stigma about page builders amongst developers, right? That they're kind of slow, and that they leave, the code they leave behind is kind of spaghetti code and a mess, and they're not performant and all that. And we definitely kind of fell into that category of developer. Like, we did not like page builders. We had no interest in using them. But we had a client that came to us, and his theme, he had been working with a theme on his WordPress site that had a page builder, and he wanted us to build out his site using that page builder. And we agreed to do it. We built the site and we handed it off to him, and he was able to kind of take it over and make changes himself that otherwise, our like kind of clients would otherwise be coming to us to make, changing out images or text, things that required getting into a theme's kind of PHP code. And we also kind of saw we realized that we were able to streamline the build process a little bit. We were able to build out pages faster using a tool, like a visual design tool. So we did this exhaustive search of all the page builders that were available at the time, and we didn't really find anything that we liked. So we started to started working on our own as a kind of a side project. We started working on it in the evening time, and then eventually, like the plan originally was just to use it internally for our own builds, but then we decided to turn it into a product. And so that was 3 years ago. We launched it, and then about a year after, we decided to kind of ramp down our client services business just to focus on Beaver Builder 100%. So it's kind of one of those classic scratch your own itch stories. It was something that we wanted and we needed, and we couldn't find exactly what we wanted, so we built our own. Okay, let's see here. I got a demo lined up really quick before I get into it. So Beaver Builder, we've found there's kind of two types that gravitate towards these sorts of tools, or our tool in particular. There's kind of the do-it-yourselfer types who maybe if you're a blogger or you have a small business that needs a website, or you're, a hobby project, like someone that's building a website themselves and isn't really interested in hiring someone to do it for them. That's been a good, like we find a lot of people like that are using Beaver Builder. And then we also have a lot of folks that are either freelancers or maybe work for a design agency. It's kind of similar to our situation, that are building websites for lots of people, and they're using a page builder to kind of streamline that process, and then also to be able to deliver a website that's editable. Let's see here. So we oh, I guess, okay, yeah, real quick again before I get into the demo, if you guys have any questions too, if you want to like raise a hand or what, I think I can see just about everyone, but feel free to kind of stop me or interrupt me or throw questions out. But I think I'm going to do this demo, and then we'll have a little bit of time for questions at the end too. Okay, so one last little piece is Beaver Builder is a premium product, but we also have a free version in the WordPress repo. So if you want to toy around with it on your WordPress site, you can install the free version and get a feel for it. I'll kind of explain a little later the differences between the premium and the free version. It's mainly the kind of building blocks that are available to build your site. A lot of the functionality is available in the free version. It's not, we don't like cripple the free version so that it's not usable, but it is kind of limited. And then our introductory package, our starter package that includes the page builder, is $99. So let me pop open. Let me just like start getting into this.
Life?
Yeah. Sorry, do you have a question?
The $99 for life forever?
It's an annual subscription. We offer a 40% discount on renewals. So it's $99 for a year. It includes updates and support. And then if you decide to renew after a year, it comes down to about $60 with the discount in there. Okay, so I got this just kind of vanilla WordPress installation running here. There's not a whole lot of plugins or anything fancy. And we're just going to start by adding a new page. And we will call it Meetup. And then when you have Beaver Builder installed, it adds this little page builder tab to the kind of default text WordPress editor here. Let me move this guy out of my way. Sorry, there's a Hangouts thing. So we click on this tab, and it will spit you into the page builder. The first thing that pops up here is this template selector. So Beaver Builder, the premium version includes, I think we're up to above 30 now of these pre-built designs that you can click on one of them and it will load right up onto your site. You can either, like we tried to gear them towards certain niches. So there's like a restaurant site or a restaurant template. This one's kind of geared towards photographers, agencies, fashion blog, etc. So if you want, you can grab any one of those templates and just kind of pop out the text and images with whatever you're trying to build. Or you can use it as sort of a starting place for your design inspiration, so you're not just looking at a blank canvas. We categorize these by, we have landing pages. So these are kind of, presumably the first page that a visitor would land on your home page when they get to your site. And then if you go up here, we also have content pages. So these are things like an About Us page or a contact page, portfolio pages, pages that would maybe traditionally be like the inner pages of a website. So what I wanted to do for this demo, I was going to use this template here, this kind of generic business template. But instead of like starting with the template, I wanted to just kind of recreate it so we can go through and kind of learn how everything works, but have like a bit of a framework to start from. So I popped it open in the second tab here so I can kind of shoot back and reference it. But to get started, I'm going to clear it out so we can just start with a blank slate and go from there. Okay, so the basic building blocks of Beaver Builder are rows and columns, which are pretty self-explanatory. You can drag in a row, and then within that row, you can drag in columns. And then we have these building blocks that we call modules. And those are, the things that you drag onto a page and build your page with. So a heading, photo, slideshow, text, things of that nature. Circling back to the free versus premium, most of the advanced modules we have here are not available in the free version. So things like slideshows, we have a contact form, subscribe form. Those are the ones we kind of consider advanced. But everything in this basic modules column is. So HTML, buttons, heading, text, photo, video, those are all available in the free version. We also have really good support for WordPress widgets and shortcodes. So if like most plugins for WordPress that render something onto the page will either provide a shortcode or a widget. Like I think like easy pricing tables or Ninja forms or Gravity forms, those are all good examples. Any of those, if you have a plugin that you like to use, you can use just about anything with Beaver Builder as long as it gives you either a shortcode or a widget, which almost all of them do. So it's really flexible in that regard. You're not limited to kind of just the tools and content that we give you, but you can use all sorts of stuff that other people have created. Okay, so I think we can just start getting or start building here. To get going, I'm going to drag in this one column row layout, and I'm just going to place it right here on the page. When you have elements on the page and you hover over them, you get these, highlighted boxes here, and then we have these little toolbars. The important one for the time being here is this settings little wrench icon. That's where a lot of the just all the options and things of that nature, that when you're building a page, just about everything happens in settings. You can move rows and modules and elements around, you can duplicate them, and you can remove them. But again, yeah, the settings are where all the good stuff is. So if we go over to our example here, we'll see we have this main kind of hero bar row. It's got a row like image background. It's got a heading and a button. So first things first, we want to add a photo background to our row. So I'm going to pop the settings panel open. If you're working on a row or a module, these settings panels will change depending on what you're looking at. If it's a heading module, it's going to have a place to put text, or if it's a button module, it's going to have a place to set the color. They all kind of follow a similar format, but the options will be a little different. I'm not going to kind of go over each individual option for each thing, because I'm just going to go over kind of the general ideas and breeze through some of this. But this is kind of the fun little things that you can tweak and play around with on your own if you decide you want to. Okay, so for our row, what we're going to do is scroll down here to this background section, and we're going to select photo background. And that brings up a couple additional options down here. We can select a photo by clicking this link. And this will pull up your default WordPress media library. If you are, familiar with WordPress, this probably looks very close to home. This is all the images that you would have uploaded to your site. I've got this guy ready to go here. So this is the image we're using. We're just going to select him. And then, yeah, we've got a background on the row. Obviously, this doesn't look quite like our example. This row is a fixed width. So obviously the width of the row isn't spanning the length of the page. So we're going to go back up to the top here to this width setting and set this to full width. There we go. It's a little bit better. One cool little feature we have that I don't know if we're using it in that demo example, but whenever you do a photo background or a video background, you can add it's this one. You can add an overlay color. So if you've ever worked with Photoshop, this is kind of a familiar idea. Like you can add a layer on top of your background, then you can set the opacity. So if you want to just kind of make a really subtle, like have the photo be really subtle against a background color, this is kind of cool if you have a bright photo that you want to use. But you also want to use like if the text is kind of clashing or unreadable on top of the photo, you can give it a darker kind of overlay color and it'll make your text pop out. Okay, well, I'll take that off for now because I don't think we really need it on this one. This is a pretty dark photo as it is. So, okay, we got our row set up. Let's go ahead and drag in a module. So we look back at our example. We have this heading module, or a heading, I guess in this example, it's on modules, heading, and a button. So if we go back here, we open up our basic modules section. We have a heading. So we just click that guy and drag him onto the page. And then, like I mentioned here, we have our heading settings, which are a little bit different, but they all kind of follow that same format. What does it say? I think it said, "We are dead serious." So we got the heading there. You can't see it, I imagine, because the color is not showing up against that background. So let's change this color to white. There we go. All right, see it? Is it working on your end? I hope it is. Okay, so got that visible now. This was happening in the style tab. So a lot of our settings are broken up by kind of general settings, style, and advanced. We'll get into the advanced stuff a little bit later. Don't let the name kind of scare you off. It's really not that advanced. It's just our just our label. Okay, so we're going to try and tweak this a little bit to make it look more like our example. If we come down here, we're going to set the alignment to center. And the HTML tag, we're going to choose an H1 tag. It's probably a topic for a whole nother discussion, but it's usually a good practice to use an H1 tag for the main heading of your page for SEO purposes. So we'll do that. And what else do we want to tweak here? I think the font size. So if we go back to our example, we'll see the font on this one is a little smaller, and then it has this second heading that's a lot bigger. So let's change this font size, make it, how's 24 look? Maybe do 32. There we go. And then again, referencing this example, the letter spacing, you can tell there's like a kind of nice looking spacing here in these letters. So we're going to tweak the letter spacing down here and give maybe 2 or 3 pixels of space in between the letters. Let's do 3. There we go. Okay, so that's pretty close. We're not going for pixel perfect accuracy here, just trying to kind of use this one as a guide, use the template as a guide. Okay, so the next thing we have is that second heading. We could open up our content panel here and drag out another heading and kind of start all over. But instead, we have this handy duplicate feature. So we're going to just duplicate what we have and then work from that. So let's go back into our settings panel here and start working with this guy. About your business is what it says, if I remember correct. We're dead serious about your business, right? Okay, so what do we need to do? We need to make the size bigger. Let's try, actually 40 is probably not gonna be enough. Let's do 50 pixels for the font size. That looks pretty good, The only thing that's really missing here now is the spacing. So if we head over to that advanced tab I mentioned, we have some options in here. These are pretty much all the same, I think, throughout all of our modules. They're all kind of generic. You can set margins, which is what we're going to do. We're going to take out the top margin and the bottom margin, set those to 0 on these 2 headings so that they sit a little closer together. But while we're in here, you can also go over some of these. We have this responsive layout option, and what this lets you do is hide certain elements depending on the screen size. So if you have, you can choose a small device or a meeting device. If you want to tweak things, like maybe you have a big image that you only want to show up on desktop computers, you can have it set to display only on large monitors and load up another image for smaller monitors. You can also set whether elements should show up for logged in or logged out users. So if you wanted to have a page that was different depending on whether a user was logged in or out, you can do that from this advanced tab. We have some animation options. If you want any of your elements on the page to either like fade in or slide in, or there's kind of fancy effects. I always recommend using those sparingly because it can get a little gaudy if you start having things sliding in and fading in and popping up and everything. It can go bad real quick when you start doing that, but subtly they can be nice. And then last but not least, and this one's a really kind of powerful one, is for any element or row in Beaver Builder, you can give it an ID or a class. So if you're familiar with writing either CSS or JavaScript, this will probably sound, or you're probably comfortable working with these. If you want to, this basically just gives the power to developers to give either a CSS class or an ID to an element so that you can then target it in a CSS file, or you can write JavaScript and target those elements. It's pretty powerful if you're comfortable working with those languages. So we have that feature down here. Okay, back to the top. So what were we doing? We were moving these guys a little closer together. So the default margins, if you can see, if it's probably kind of small over there, but the default margin for everything is 20 pixels. We're going to change that top margin to 0. We're going to save that. And we'll come back up to this guy up here. And since he was on the top, we're going to change his bottom margin to 0. There we go. It's getting closer. A nifty trick you can do in Beaver Builder, or also this kind of just mirrors what you can do with CSS, but you can do a negative margin. So if you want to, like, if you do like -20, these will, or maybe there we go. You can actually get things to overlap, which in this case doesn't look good. But if you have like an image that's underneath a row and you want to kind of do this like layered effect, there's some kind of cool stuff you can do with negative margins. And it's possible to do those in Beaver Builder. So, okay, I'll save that. There we go. So that's getting pretty close. Last element of this row is that button. So we're going to go back to our content panel here and grab this button module, drag him out onto the page. Kind of similar to what we've been doing before. Let's go over and, I guess we can change this. What does it say? Oh, it says, how about you? Question mark. We'll give it a link. So been the best practice here. And then one of the options you have, or one of our features, I guess I should say, is we have a number of icon libraries that are loaded into Beaver Builder. So for this button in particular, you can add an icon to your buttons, and then we also have an icon module, which we'll use a little bit later. The notable point is that we have several icon libraries. There's Font Awesome, which is one of the main, it's probably like the household name of icon fonts. If you're in that space, they're one of the biggest ones, kind of one of the longest standing. We also include Foundation icons and the WordPress default icons as well. So those are all just there. You can click on them and load them up into your page just like that. It's nice and easy. You don't have to worry about loading in the CSS or JavaScript files or anything like that. But we actually don't want that for this case. So we're going to go over to the Style tab. Let's style this up again so it looks kind of like our demo. We want to set the alignment to center. And then let's bump the font size up a little bit. And we'll give the button a little bit of extra padding, so it has a little bit of substance to it. Maybe go 18 pixels. How does that look? Yeah, it looks good. And then you have this rounded quarters option here. If you wanted to do like a pill-shaped kind of button, you can do that with the rounded corners there. I like it. I kind of like it where it was. Just like a very subtle little rounded corner. I like that. Okay, and then again, similar to what we did with the heading, let's just take out the top margin or zero it out so it sits a little bit closer. And maybe actually do like a negative margin again. There we go. All right, we'll save that. Okay, so that's pretty darn close. The only kind of major difference here is the size of this row. It's kind of skinny. It's yeah, so let's fatten it up a little bit. We're gonna go back to the row and hit that settings button again and go over to our advanced tab. And for rows, you can have the option to do margin, but you also have the option to give padding. So we're gonna increase the top and bottom padding there. There we go. It's looking a little better. 200. All right. So that is, I think, good enough to move on from. Do you guys have any questions, or is there anything that I might have like breezed over that I could elaborate more on at this point?
Mark's asking me a question about image height. So
Uh-huh.
for that background image, so how is it handling that the background image height?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. If we go back into that image section, we have this kind of position and scaling options. So right now we set it to fill. We can also set it to fit. So it will scale the image down depending on like what kind of effect you're going for. Like if you wanted, maybe like if we had this blue background color as the background of the row and we just wanted to have, you know, like a picture of a person or something, we'd want to fit that image in. So if it was like a face or someone standing there, it wouldn't blow them all out of proportion. But what we're doing is using this fill option, so it will stretch the image to fill up the entire row. And then we can position it. This one is just centered. But if we wanted to position it, you know, with like however, you can see all the kind of options here, left top, left bottom, depending on the kind of the effect you're going for, you can change the positioning. And then if I resize my browser window here, you can see the image will kind of stretch and mold to, you can see how it's kind of growing, and it's not keeping the image like all visible, but it's stretching it out to fill the row.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Was there any other questions or anything else before I move on? Good. Okay. I think I can see like right down the middle of the. Oh yeah, yeah.
Go ahead, Robbie.
Oh, okay.
Good idea.
Ah, perfect. Well, now I really can't see you guys, but hopefully you can see better. So
You're better.
cool. All right, yeah. So moving on, this next row here is this kind of 3 icon kind of call to action call out sections. So that's what we're going to start building. If we go to our row layouts and grab one with 3 columns, drag that in, I'm going to drag that down here into a new row. And then that icon module that I mentioned earlier is going to come in handy right now because all 3 of those had icons. Let's see here. I'm just going to choose something random. What should we choose? Okay, that looks cool. Choose that one. Okay, so we got an icon on the page. We're going to style it similar to what we've been doing for everything else. It's kind of like placing and then styling and placing and then styling. Let's see here. So this alignment, we're going to center it. Size, let's bump this up to like 70 pixels. For the color, we're using this kind of dark blue color everywhere else. So push that in there. There we go. Oh, actually, you know what? I take that back. If we go look at our example, we actually have this circular background around our icon. So what we can do, or we can mimic that here by using a background color. And the default for the background for any icon is, is a circle.
You have color palettes to go with that, or you?
Beaver Builder doesn't come with any palettes built in per se. I had this color, the hex code saved on a notepad here. But what you can do is you can save a color. So we added this to our preset. If we click this color picker here, we can see it's available. So if you were doing a design that had an established kind of color palette, you could save those colors and then quickly access them in this color palette section here.
Would it be available on other pages as well?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It would be saved throughout the site. So it wouldn't, like if you're using Beaver Builder on multiple sites, it would basically be saved as like to your WordPress install, and it would be available on all the pages on that install. Okay, so we got our background color, and then we just need to set the icon color to white now, so it shows up. There we go. Okay, save that. And then underneath, we had some text. So we're going to grab our text editor module and pull this guy down. So the text editor we use is the same one that WordPress uses. It's this tiny MCE editor. So if you're, if you write a lot of blog posts, or if you've been using WordPress for a little while, this should look pretty familiar. Let me just copy text to make this easier. Okay, actually, I don't want to skip over that part. So we can set headings in the text editor. This like all the options that are available in the kind of default WordPress editor are available here in Beaver Builder. So we can make that a heading. Let me grab that text here. Paste that in. We need to center it. And then also similar, this is getting a little advanced, but if you are comfortable writing HTML code, and this again is available just in vanilla WordPress, but you can pop into this text tab here and you can actually edit the HTML or add inline styles. Like if we want to drop down the font size or something, like let's do that. It's 28 pixels. This isn't the best practice if you were going to do this the right way. I'm making air quotes right now, like the right way. You'd probably want to give that a CSS either class or ID and write that into a CSS file. But it's there's always projects I think that are okay to cheat on and ones that aren't. And this obviously being a demonstration, we can cheat a little bit. If you guys will let me. Sorry, maybe I'm.
It's okay.
All right, thank you. I should mention the right way though, right? Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to do it real quick this time, but we're going to adjust the margins on both of these so that they sit a little closer. So let's just give this a negative margin again. There we go. All right, so pretty close to what we have here. Again, not pixel perfect, but good enough. And then what we can do is duplicate all this. There we go. And we can duplicate our text here. Drag that guy over. So the duplicate tool comes in real handy for situations like this where you're doing these kind of repetitive pieces. Or even you can even duplicate whole rows. Like if we wanted to maybe do something similar to what we were doing up at the top, we can duplicate that row and then go in there. And if we wanted to have a kind of similar layout, we could move this guy down underneath, and the duplicate feature is a real time saver. Real quick, just for my own sake, I'm going to tweak the padding on this row again to give it a little breathing room. Kind of same thing that we did up there. See how we can space that out a little bit. There we go. Let's save that. While we were chatting about the color picker, on a kind of similar note, and on a similar note to duplicating rows, a nifty feature that we have is the ability to save a row. And what this will do, save row, save it. This will make this row available throughout your site. So if you're working, if you have a site with multiple pages, like the good example for this is if you have like a call to action bar, something that has like maybe like an email sign up that says, hey, sign up for my email newsletter, and has a little form, and something like that would be an element that you might want on multiple pages, and you want it to look the same on each page. You can save that row, and then it will become available over in the saved rows section, and you can drag it out again. And this will work on any page in your site once you've saved it. If you have Beaver Builder running, you can load it up and drag those rows out. Another kind of nifty feature in this piece is you can save a row as a global. If you check this little global select box to yes, what that will do is a global row will be consistent on every page. So in that call to action example, if you have a 100-page website and you have 100 different pages that all have that same call to action row, if it's a global row, you can make a change to that row in one place, and then it will cascade to all of the different. It will change on all the pages where that row is being used. So if we were to save this row and kind of make a template so that we could use this format and change it on a bunch of different pages, we wouldn't want to make that a global. But if we had something that we wanted to use verbatim on a bunch of different pages, you could save it as a global. And that one was a huge time saver. I remember when we came out with that feature it probably came out like a year or two after we launched Beaver Builder, and that was especially for me, that was a huge one, because before that you would have to go into each page on your 50-page or whatever website and make those changes manually, and that was a real pain.
So it wouldn't
yeah.
matter which page you changed it on, right?
I'm sorry, could you say again?
It wouldn't matter which page you changed it on. If you got to another page and you had a global element and you saw you wanted to make a change or a mistake, you could change it from there and it would still change it globally, correct?
Yeah, what it does is it'll open up it doesn't actually change on the page. It opens up the row in a new window and lets you change it from there. But you can access that window from any page. Let's see here. Okay, let's do one more row here. I'll try and knock this one out really quick, and then we can move into doing some questions. So sorry, I'm breezing through this, but we're gonna build this row out here. It's a 2-column row with an image and some text and a button. Oh yeah, did you have another question?
I was gonna say copy the text while you're there.
Oh well, yeah, that's probably. Well, I'm gonna cheat actually. That's a good idea though. I was just gonna copy this guy, to be honest. This one will go a lot easier because we already have a lot of these elements built out. Like we can copy our button from before, move him on down. There we go. And then let's grab that color. So let's tweak the row a little bit, give it that dark blue color. There we go. Set it as full width. When we were doing that first row, we were setting the text colors on the individual modules, but you can also set the text color on an entire row, which would have been probably convenient to do on this row up above, because especially when you're doing these kind of alternating dark and light designs, the default color for your site or your theme more often than not is going to be a dark color like this row. But if you are using a dark row, you're going to want to use exclusively a light color. So you can set it on the row there. And then if I was to duplicate this module just for the example, you can see any text you put into this row by default will be that color. Okay, so we had an image. So we're going to grab our photo module here and we're going to drag it into this column. Then I think I have that photo. Yeah, here it is. Got it all lined up. Select it and then save it. There we go. I must have messed up on my color when I copied it, because that doesn't quite match up. But assuming you don't screw up your hex code, that color would match up. Sorry, I don't know. Is that even showing up on your end? It's an eyesore on my end, but
yeah, we can see it, but we'll forgive.
Well, pretend it's the same color for me.
It's an image with a transparent background.
Oh yeah, that too. I tend to use instead of doing I remember actually specifically with this image doing it as a transparent background. The image size blew up. it got like way bigger. So I was kind of cheating when we were putting this template together, and I used a background image or background color on the image, but that was like a performance decision. Okay, so that's actually pretty close, I think, to what we had here. Everything that we would maybe want to tweak is stuff we've already done before. So like we can change the alignment there, change the button alignment. One kind of nifty thing here is all of our columns have these little draggable elements here, so you can resize things on the fly.
What about the rows? Can you do the rows, the padding and the margin on the rows that way?
You know, right now you can't, unfortunately, but we are coming out with that feature in our next big release here, which is, yeah, it's due out in about, I want to say like 3 or, well, okay, we're going to get like a beta version out in the next couple weeks, and then the actual release will probably be towards the end of May. But yeah, right now you can't. You can go into a row and you can adjust the padding manually. So if we wanted to like shrink this row down, do like 100 and 100 and make it skinnier, right? But yeah, we're adding a feature that has one of those draggable handles that will do it using a max width, which is a little bit more flexible for responsive design. So that's coming real soon.
I'm talking about the row height, the padding and the margin on the row height.
Oh, you know what? No, we don't have. That's a good idea. Actually, I like that idea a lot. But no, we don't have that. Unfortunately, it's the row height can only be done either with padding, or we have this option to set it as to like basically fill out the entire browser window size. If you go to full height, there we go. That'll do, and this works a lot, like this works beautifully when you don't have a header on your page, because then it will load up and it'll be like the browser height, and then but then that'll adjust depending on the height of your browser. It will tweak the row. Okay, let's see here. Let me peek at my notes. Yeah, so I mentioned we're doing a version 2.0 release coming up here really soon, and the timing of this demo wasn't the best, just in the sense that we're actually coming out with a pretty major overhaul to our user interface, the whole kind of UI. We started working with a really talented designer. So we're kind of like visually, we're changing up all the aesthetics. Everything's going to work the same, and it's going to be familiar. But man, I wish that was ready, because it would have been fun to use the new user interface. It's really slick. We have that coming out in the next couple weeks. The only other last thing I kind of wanted to touch on before we do some questions is just we have if you do start using Beaver Builder, we have a really great community. Mainly it's on Facebook. There's a Facebook group called Beaver Builders, and we just passed, I think, like 6,000 people. But it's a really, we've gotten a lot of praise from folks, both in and outside of kind of our community, on just the level of like friendliness and knowledge there. A lot of people come there to ask questions or with their problems or issues that they're having with their website builds, and it's a really nice place. Everyone's really friendly and generous with their time and with their knowledge. So yeah, if you do start using Beaver Builder, we'd love to get you in that Facebook group, because it's really kind of good resource to learn, and also a good resource to kind of network and connect with other people that use Beaver Builder. Okay, I think that about does it. Anything else I would be doing here? I guess I think we covered all of the like major basics. We could start getting real nitty gritty, but yeah, was there any other questions out there, or was anything else anyone's curious about, or curious if you're able to build or anything of that nature?
I know you answered some of the questions that our group had, but I think there's a few more questions.
Turn the lights.
Yeah. Who had a question that hasn't been answered yet? You? Yeah. Go ahead.
How many of the elements like will follow the styling of whatever theme it is? So if I make a child theme, and do the Beaver Builder elements pick up on that?
Do the Beaver Builder elements pick up on whatever theme that you're using?
Yeah, they do. That's a good question. So we've always kind of erred on the side of minimalism when it comes to the styling of all of our modules. So the theme I'm using right now, it's setting a lot of these styles, like for the headings, it's all capitalized and it's, the font weight and all this stuff. But yeah, basically in a sentence, yes. We do our best to be kind of style agnostic so that when you drag your modules into your theme, it's going to pick up the colors and fonts and sizes that your theme has set.
And flip side, are there CSS classes for example, controlling the icons of your slideshow, that type of thing? Are there Beaver classes that I can just specify in my style sheet?
Yeah, the icons is a there are you can both set a class. So what you can do is set a class. Like if you were to pull a slideshow out, you could set a class on that module and then dig in through that slideshow to find the icons. You would be able to target it from that class. So yeah, essentially yes, we try to make it everything developer friendly. So everything that we generate on the page when you look into the markup has like CSS classes and IDs that you can target and dig into, and then we also have a lot of like hooks and filters that if you're comfortable doing WordPress development and PHP development, you can tap into those for even more kind of customization options. The other thing that we have for the developer folks is a custom module framework and documentation. So it's actually relatively simple to create your own custom modules that will load up in Beaver Builder. A good example of that would be like we had a guy that was doing a real estate website, and he needed when he delivered it to his client, he wanted to have like an MLS listings widget. And he was able to find the widget somewhere out on the web and then quickly put it into a custom module and then load it up so that his clients could drag that out onto the page. Does that answer? Hope that answers your question.
Yep.
Great.
I had a question. If you're able to create a global sidebar.
Sorry, what sidebar?
A global sidebar.
Oh, yeah, I think you should be able to do that. Do we have to be? I know we have we have this sidebar.
Just like you said, a global row, but vertically?
Okay, you know what? This sidebar is something different. What you could probably do, I guess, I hate to say it, I guess not. You can save like along with save rows. I didn't mention, but you can also save modules. So, if you had like a sidebar maybe that had like a menu module and a button or something like that, you could save that and use that in like throughout the site, similar to how you could with a row. But there isn't a way to save like a column the way you can save a row or a module. So specific to a sidebar, you might have to kind of do a little workaround for that.
That was actually a challenge that I had with a project last year where we needed a sidebar in one of the templates that we were doing for the site, and we were using that template on several pages. It was the same sidebar, and so we wanted to reuse it. And it was challenging because I couldn't then I couldn't really comfortably use Beaver Builder the way I wanted in the left side of the page if I had the sidebar, if I was using Beaver Builder in the right. I couldn't basically nest things properly. So is that, like, do you understand, you can't really nest, you can nest rows in rows, but you can't nest columns in rows, correct?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a tricky situation to wrap your head around, but I think I know what you're getting at. Sidebars are an interesting one because usually the sidebar is separate from like if you have a blog, right, your blog content is going to be separate from your sidebar, and the sidebar is usually established from the theme. like if we, like this theme we're using here is full width, but if we were using a theme that by default had a sidebar, that page, like this page would kind of shrink into that content area. One thing you can do, and this is getting a little developer heavy, but if you save a module or a row for that matter, but I think the module, well, you could probably do it with a saved row. Like if you built out your sidebar within a row and saved it, you can access those saved rows with a short code. So you'd have to get into your theme and write a little PHP, but you could have your theme echo out or spit out that saved row in the sidebar area. But yeah, there would be a little bit of like a workaround.
So that's just so that you can build it in Beaver Builder and then.
Yeah, build it or edit it in Beaver Builder, but I think you'd still need to do a little code wrangling to get it to show up.
Like, would you do that on like on a draft page or something, or?
Yeah, probably. I do that on our site where, like for our footers, I built all of our footers on a page that's just a private page that isn't, indexed. It doesn't have a title or anything. But then I've saved it from that page, and then I use that short code in our theme just to pull those out and use Beaver Builder for the footer.
Interesting. Yeah. I like that as a potential workaround for that challenge.
Yeah, the question has come up a lot if you can use Beaver Builder to build your site's headers or footers, and we've always kind of said that your theme is kind of like the frame around your site's content, and Beaver Builder mostly works with the content, or it just exclusively works with the content, really. And sidebars kind of fall into that same header footer category where if you go into your theme on the back end, that's all that, like the sidebar is separate from the content, which is where Beaver Builder functions. There's like the content function in WordPress that will spit out, like if you dig into your theme files, that the content function will spit out whatever the page content is. Like on a blog, it's usually the blog post, and then the themes template files will determine the header and the footer and the sidebar around that. Sorry, I don't know if I'm explaining that well.
You're explaining it perfectly.
Okay, it's been a little while since I used to write a lot more code, but I'm kind of like an ex-developer now. I've been I miss it, but yeah, I'm pretty sure would be the best way to go about it, was to use the short code.
What other questions? Did you have questions? No. Over there, you guys.
Pop back over there.
Okay.
Actually, when you're doing the spacing and stuff, is it generating CSS for the padding, or is it reminding those?
Yeah. So if you look on like the behind the scenes for Beaver Builder, we generate a CSS file, and if you're using something that requires JavaScript, we'll create a JavaScript file. And that all gets saved. It gets saved in the backend. So it's not loading it inline. It's creating a separate kind of minified file that can be cached by your web server.
Lost Betsy.
What?
There you are.
What were you gonna ask me?
You
said we lost you. Oh, sorry, someone was knocking. Okay. Any other questions? I don't think so. Thank you so much, Robbie.
Hey.
Great.
Thank you guys for having me and listening. I really appreciate the time, and yeah, that was fun. I hope it was fun on your end, but that was fun on my end.
Well, if it was fun on your end, then I think I would love to have you back with the new interface in 2 months, and maybe we're gonna have we might have a bigger group, and maybe can see some of the new features and I'd love to see some, like, how to save modules and that kind of thing too. So
sure.
about it.
Yeah, like kind of like more of an advanced. This was kind of a high level overview, but we could do like an advanced kind of thing. And I didn't mention it. We're coming out with a new product too, which might be a fun thing to do a demo on. We're calling it Beaver Themer. But as I was describing that header footer problem, Beaver Themer it's an extension that will let you build out theme parts, headers and footers with Beaver Builder, and build out blog layouts and things like that. I have to double check on sidebars, especially after chatting right now, because we should be able to leverage that to do sidebars too. I haven't looked at it. I'll find out more about that and circle back with you.
So many designs aren't even using sidebars now, but there's still a lot that do.
Yeah, I know what you mean. They're kind of falling out of trend, but they still have some use, right?
Absolutely.
All right, great.
All right, thank you again so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, and maybe I'll see you guys soon. And I hope everyone has a good night.
Bye, everyone. Wave.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Robin.
Bye.
Oops. I think so, except I just undid the HDMI and, oh, there we go. I'm started.